Hello, this is Mark Tooley, president of the Institute on Religion and Democracy here in a very chilly but beautiful Washington, D.C., conversing with Jason Vickers, professor of Christian Theology at Asbury Theological Seminary outside of Lexington, Kentucky. We're going to talk especially about his new appointment that will begin later next year at Baylor University's Truett Theological Seminary, where Jason Vickers will be and make sure I pronounce this and describe this accurately, the inaugural holder of the William J. Abraham Chair of Wesleyan Studies. So Truett Seminary will become a place for Methodist seminarians to study. So Jason Vickers, are you excited about your new role next year?
Thank you, Mark. It's good to be with you again. And yes, very excited. I want to begin, if I may, just by indicating that I remain an enthusiastic supporter of Asbury Theological Seminary, where I am now and where I will teach through the end of the spring semester coming up. And as far as I'm concerned, Asbury and Truett are ultimately a part of the same team. We're looking to promote Wesleyan Christianity to the glory of God and for the life of the world. And I'll say more about that here in a little bit. I think we're in a situation now, Mark, as you know, in theological education, in the church, in ministry, where we really do need all hands on deck. We need as many people as we can get, as many institutions as we can get, helping to advance the cause of the gospel and to advance the Wesleyan form of Christianity that we know and love. So just a quick word there about Asbury and my ongoing enthusiastic support for them as I get ready to transition to Truett.
Now, of course, Baylor University is a historically Baptist institution, so this is somewhat of a new development for them and for their Truett Seminary. And if I know the history correctly, the late, great William Abraham, perhaps Methodism's greatest theologian during these recent last years, played a key role in setting up this new program of Wesleyan Studies at Baylor.
That's right, and the program is up and running. So they already have a lot of students there, Methodist students in the Wesley House of Studies. But Billy Abraham did in fact play a key role in helping to launch that, along with several others, as I understand it. There are people like Ryan Barnett, Rusty Freeman, Kevin Watson, and others who have contributed to the establishment of the Wesley House of Studies. So it's in that sense, it's new, but it's not brand new. It's something that is already in development. It's underway, and there's already so much momentum in terms of student enrollment and just the overall vision for the Wesley House of Studies that Dean Todd Still and Associate Dean Angela Reed and others have. So just to say a word though about Billy's role and Truett, and that was really a major factor for me, and also about Truett's Baptist identity, as you rightly note, Baylor's Baptist identity. I actually think that there's a sense in which having a Wesley House of Studies in a Baptist setting is going to be beneficial for the ongoing development of Wesleyan theology. Now, I could say the same thing about having a Wesley House of Studies in other settings, a Catholic or a Lutheran kind of setting. And I actually think that's very much in keeping with Billy Abraham's theological legacy. So if I can, I'd just like to say a couple of things about what that is for me, at least a part of it, and how I see Wesleyan studies moving forward, what I'm committed to, what I hope to be doing as the Abraham Chair at Truett in the Wesley House of Studies. And that is that Wesleyan theology is, as you know, is indebted to the late Albert Outler, among others. And we have experienced over the last half century a great renaissance in Wesleyan studies that has to do with the study of John and Charles Wesley. But the Wesleyan tradition is much bigger than just the Wesleys, just the 18th century English revival. It includes all kinds of other developments, such that it is now a global phenomenon, a truly global form of Christianity. And so it has, all kinds of ecclesial forms, holiness denominations and churches, African American denominations and churches, AME Zion, and so forth, and other expressions of the Wesleyan tradition. So I think one of the things that we need to do, one task for Wesleyan studies going forward, is we need to attend to the development of the Wesleyan tradition beyond the Wesleys and beyond early American Methodism. So we really need to explore the Wesleyan tradition in all of its forms across the centuries and around the world. That's one of the things that I hope to be doing at Truett and in the Wesley House of Studies. So the second part, though, is where I'm going to come to Truett's Baptist identity and why I think that is exciting, why I'm excited by it personally, the locating of a Wesley House of Studies in a Baptist setting. The Wesleyan theological tradition, as I mentioned, we've spent half a century really working to recover the work, the theology of John and Charles Wesley. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge people like not just Billy Abraham, but Randy Maddox and my colleague at Asbury, Ken Collins, among many others who have worked tirelessly now for decades to recover and promote the theology of the Wesleys. And that is, of course, foundational for the Wesleyan tradition. Having said that, John Wesley, and Charles for that matter, they have certain limits. They emphasize certain things in theology, but no one, very few anyway, can say everything. Very few can work in theology in a truly comprehensive way. There are only a handful of Aquinuses, right? And Wesley is not Aquinas. Now, I think there are some areas in Christian theology that are underdeveloped historically in the Wesleyan tradition. So just to give you one quick example, because this is the other part of my own work and what I'm excited about doing at Truett in the Wesley House of Studies and as the Abraham Chair, take Christology and especially the doctrine of the atonement. I've often said that the atonement is, it has a kind of dogmatic status for Wesleyans, specifically its unlimited nature. If you deny the unlimited nature of the atonement, you might be a Christian, but you're not a Wesleyan, right? It's just constitutive of Wesleyan Christianity, the unlimited atonement. The problem or the weakness, as it were, in even in John Wesley to some degree, is the linking of the atonement or thinking about the atonement primarily, perhaps not exclusively, but primarily in connection with the suffering and death of Christ on the cross, which is, of course, of atoning significance. But attending to the fullness of Christ's work, the whole of Christ's work, from incarnation all the way through to ascension, resurrection, ascension, and second coming. What is the atoning significance of the whole of Christ's work? In the early church, the incarnation itself was of atoning significance, or it was of significance for how they thought about God's great work of salvation. So I think we need to explore, we need to more fully develop Christology within the Wesleyan tradition. And I'm just giving you one example of this. There would be many other ways. We are not particularly well thought out at times on things like divine sovereignty. We leave that to our Calvinist brothers and sisters, right? And we need to spend more time thinking about that. Now that brings me to Truett, Mark, that Baptist setting is going to help us Wesleyans like myself to hear and ask new questions of our own tradition, to think about topics like the atonement from new angles, and to have new conversation partners that will help us to develop Wesleyan theology going forward. And now, lastly, just quickly here, all of this has to be done with a view toward the well-being, the glory of God and the well-being of the world. And that's, I want to end there, at least this part of my comments, by saying that, at Truett, the way I understand things, this is certainly my vision. We are interested in all Wesleyans who would like to come and study and train for the work of ministry in a way that is always working to facilitate a conversation between theology on the one hand and things like evangelism, catechesis and formation, worship, missionary work, service on the other. And that's so for me personally, I'm very hopeful that we will have Wesleyans from many denominations come and be in conversation together about what it means to do theology for the glory of God and the life of the world.
Now, Jason, all of this unfolds at a moment of upheaval for the United Methodist Church, which is the largest Wesleyan body in the United States. And United Methodism has 13 official seminaries, plus your Asbury Theological Seminary, although not official, produces more United Methodist seminarians than any other school. So now we have added to the mix the seminary at Baylor, as much of United Methodism divides with the creation of the new Global Methodist Church, and likely at least several thousand congregations exiting United Methodism, to most of whom will affiliate with that Global Methodist Church. So Truett Theological Seminary and its Wesleyan Studies program, who will its constituency be? Will it straddle all of these worlds, Global Methodist, United Methodist, and the other Wesleyan denominations?
I certainly hope so, or at least I hope that in terms of the kind of theological commitments that Truett has, and those are available on its website. There's a statement there that you can look at in terms of its theological commitments. I don't see Truett or the Wesley House of Studies in particular as being exclusive to any one particular Methodist or Wesleyan denomination. Now, realistically, I think that it certainly now and in the near term, Truett is likely to serve Methodists, Global Methodist, and other Methodists in Texas and in the surrounding states. And I think that's partly because most of the theological education at Truett, certainly not all, but a lot of it is in person. And so that might present some challenges for someone coming from New England, say. But of course, we would welcome someone from New England if they wanted to relocate. And who knows what the future will hold in terms of our resourcing people through distance education, something that, as you know, Asbury Theological Seminary has pioneered and is known for. Now, what I want to say here, though, most, Mark, is that I think, and I want to come back to Billy Abraham for a minute. Billy always had a kind of optimism about the future, that he was a realist. He was not one to ignore challenges, difficulties, division, as you've been mentioning, the Global Methodist, United Methodist situation. He was never one to ignore those things, but he was something of an eternal optimist. And part of that optimism is that he would say things like, you never know what the Holy Spirit will do in the future, what new kind of fresh developments will happen, even in the midst of division, even in the midst of human beings behaving badly, not loving one another as we ought, even in the midst of when sometimes when we are at our worst, nevertheless, God doesn't give up on us. Now, what I'm trying to say there is that I kind of view something like the Wesley House of Studies at Truett as one of these fresh developments that people didn't see coming. And I think there will be more of those. The situation that we're in, the division of the United Methodist church at present, and are the disaffiliating congregations that are leaving either to be independent or to perhaps join another denomination like the Free Methodist Church. I think a couple of congregations have done that. And then, of course, the emergence of the Global Methodist Church. In the middle of all of this, I think what we will see when we look back in 10, 20, 30 years is the emergence of new institutions, new ministries that were not there before all of this started happening. And so as it's difficult, it's hard, it's for those of us going through it. But I have, a sort of confidence, if you will, in the Holy Spirit to be present among us, even while we're feuding with one another. And I think that we're going to see tremendous things in the Wesleyan tradition in the days ahead.
And it goes without saying, Jason, that the Wesleyan Studies program at Truett will be committed to classical Christian teaching and traditional Methodism.
That's correct. And it's again, if you look on, Truett's website, you will find a kind of, I think, a robust theological statement that Wesleyans can celebrate. And I should say here that while I will be a part of the Wesley House of Studies at Truett, the other faculty at Truett, the faculty resources at Truett, and even Baylor as a whole, the wider resources, both faculty and other resources of Baylor University, are world class. I mean, they are extraordinary. So there are faculty at Truett who teach in areas like early Christianity, who specialize in things like early biblical interpretation, who can walk you through someone like Irenaeus and others in the early church. So there, and that's just one quick example. I'm thinking of Professor Wilhite, among others here. There are so many faculty resources at Baylor that will be accessible to Wesleyans and Methodists. And as I have met and gotten to know the people who will be my new colleagues in 2023, in the fall of 23 and beyond, my sense is, yes, Mark, they are committed to classical Christian orthodoxy. And frankly, I find them to be theologically utterly compatible with Wesleyanism.
Jason Vickers, a professor at Asbury Theological Seminary and the newly appointed chair at Truett Theological Seminary for the new or somewhat new Wesleyan Studies program there, named for the late, great William Abraham. Thank you very much for an encouraging conversation, and we look forward to following exciting developments in your career and down there at Baylor University at the Methodist Studies program.
Thank you, Mark.